Dear Josh McDaniels, run Drake Maye more. That's where we start on this episode of Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Patriots fans? I am your host, Nick Cattles, born and raised in New England, your New England Patriots expert, host of the Everything Pats podcast, co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles, and also a sports talk show host veteran. On today's episode, we'll dig into the obstacles that could stop Milton Williams from hitting his ceiling as a Patriot, and the defense doesn't have a ton of questions, but we're going to discuss one of them. But first, the 2025 Pats offense has to learn from the terrible 2024 version. We appreciate you joining the show, making us your first listen, and for being an everydayer. The Locked On Patriots podcast is a proud partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Quick reminder, we're going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 days a week until we get back to 5 shows a week. Every day we get a show starting on Monday, July 14th. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. The Patriots offense needs to exploit Drake Maye's athleticism and scrambling ability. I want to take you to a story written by Ben Solak. He broke down Drake Maye and what we should see from the Patriots in year 2 of Maye's NFL career. And Solak underlined Maye's ability to scramble. Here's what he wrote. Maye scrambled on 10.8% of his dropbacks, second only to Jayden Daniels among quarterbacks. Maye's 9 yards per scramble exceeded Daniels' 8.1, as did his explosive run rate. When you look at explosive run rate, Drake Maye, his number was at 37.8%. Jayden Daniels, more than 10% below that at 27.1%. Solak writes, I'm not taking Maye before Daniels were I running a triple option offense, nor is anyone else. But Maye's significant scrambling achievements have gotten lost in Daniels' historical shadow. Smart coaches would start including him in the option run game as a big-bodied vertical runner a la Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. I 100% agree with Ben Solak. Smart coaches would start including Drake Maye in the option running game as a big-bodied vertical runner a la Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. Josh McDaniels, last time I checked, is considered a very smart coach, a very smart offensive coordinator. And if he is that, we've seen it before, if he is that still to this day in 2025, then he will run Drake Maye more than we saw Maye run in 2024. He will exploit the athleticism and the scrambling ability he now has in his quarterback. You want to cause conflict on any defense that you face. And the way that you do that with your quarterback is that you can combat the pass rush if your quarterback can run with the football. Guys might get hesitant getting deep downfield, going after the quarterback for a sack. They're going to be hesitant, or at least they should be hesitant if they're trying to play responsible football. They're going to be hesitant if that quarterback can tuck it and run it. So you combat the pass rush with Drake Maye's legs. Defenses have to worry about an extra skill position player for all intents and purposes. You're not facing a guy who's going to be a statue in the pocket. You're facing somebody that is like moving fluidly like water within that pocket, outside the pocket, scrambling, running downfield, making plays with his legs, converting first downs. It's like facing an extra skill position player. You don't have to worry about just the receivers, the running backs, and the tight ends out there. Oh, no. You've got to worry about the quarterback hurting you by getting away from your defensive line. Force the defense to devote a spy if you're Josh McDaniels. You want the idea of Maye running in the back of every single defender's mind week in and week out during this upcoming season. If you can get that done, it creates more offensive wiggle room. Think about how good your offense can be if you have a truly effective running quarterback. Let's look at the Patriots and what they did last year. On 3rd and 4th down, it wasn't good, especially on 3rd down. 3rd down, it was hideous. The Patriots were 29th in 3rd down conversion rate. They converted less than 35% of their 3rd downs. That, my friends, is atrocious. It's abominable. It is frankly puke-inducing. 4th down, they were better. Right about middle of the pack. They were 14th in the league at 58.33%. Still not great overall. And when you look at the offenses in the league last year that were good on 3rd down, I want you to try to pick out a theme here. I want you to stick a pin in these teams as you go through them with me and think about who their quarterbacks are. 3rd down offense. Here are 7 of the top 10 offenses on 3rd down from 2024. Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Washington, Buffalo, Arizona, Green Bay. 7 of your top 10 3rd down offenses a year ago had running, scrambling quarterbacks. Jackson, Mahomes, Burrow, Daniels, Allen, Murray, Love, all capable of tucking and running. The top 3 offenses on 4th down. The top 3 offenses on 4th down last year. The Commanders, the Bills, the Eagles. Sensing a trend? Sensing a theme with those teams? I am. When you have a running quarterback, and I'm not sitting here telling you that we should be stumping for Drake Maye to run the football 10 to 15 times a game. I'm saying 3-4 times a game. Use it in the perfect spots. You don't have to overrun him. You don't have to try to turn him into RG3. You don't have to try to turn him into Cam Newton at times back in 2020. A few times a game will loosen things up. It will help you out. It will extend drives. It will open up running lanes for the running backs as you use the option plays that Solak wrote about. You want to throw the defense off. You want them thinking things, misdirection, deception. You can do that if you run Drake Maye more in 2025. You will also improve in the red zone. If you have the option with a running quarterback, you will improve your red zone offense. And we all know one of the key categories that the Patriots have to be better in this season is red zone offense, because they were frankly deplorable in 2024. Absolutely hideous in red zone offense. They were 30th in the league in red zone offense. So 29th on 3rd down and 30th in the red zone. A running quarterback should make your red zone offense much more efficient. You were 30th in the red zone area, which is why you were 30th in points per game last year. You're not efficient in the red zone. You're not scoring enough points. You should be able to help yourself with that situation if you utilize your running quarterback. I'm going to do the same thing I did just a minute or two ago with the idea of looking at quarterbacks in some of these offenses. Top 10 red zone offenses in 2024. The top 10 was littered with running and scrambling quarterbacks. We've heard a lot of these teams already. Baltimore was the best red zone offense. Buffalo was number 2. Washington was number 6. Chicago with Caleb Williams was number 7. Philadelphia, Green Bay, they were tied for 10th. We're talking about more teams that have quarterbacks that can scramble, that can be part of a run package with the option plays, quarterback sneaks, whatever you want to do. Offenses that utilize the athleticism and scrambling ability of their quarterbacks unequivocally are some of the best offenses in football in 2025, and the Patriots happen to have one of those guys. Don't overrun him. Don't go crazy, but utilize his strengths. So Josh McDaniels, I plead with you, run Maye more in 2025. Please. Milton Williams has tons of potential, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have obstacles in the way. That's coming up next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Did you take advantage of the NBA playoffs? I've been talking about this for a while. The highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it was a game-winning shot or a breakout player. I hope you got in on the action over the past several weeks. If not, you better be ready for the football season. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before kickoff and live with player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans, you have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players will show up in the biggest moments, and how could tracking their trends help you build your next bet? And if you've got a read on who's heating up, back it up with the same game parlay. I do that all the time during the football season. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Milton Williams is a tremendous talent. I was super excited when the Patriots signed him during free agency. We all remember that moment. Like, okay, Williams is not going to be a Patriot. I think it was he's going to Carolina. All of a sudden, that changed. Now he's not going to Carolina. He's going to end up being a Patriot. That was a great moment at the beginning of the free agency period. There's nobody that's going to debate whether or not Milton Williams is a tremendous talent, but Milton Williams absolutely has some obstacles that are in the way of him hitting his ceiling, in the way of him fulfilling his potential. We're going to talk about some of those. Recently, Pro Football Focus ranked all the positions across the NFL. They gave us their top 32 players at each position, getting ready for 2025's season. And Pro Football Focus ranked Milton Williams 14th among interior defensive linemen. And here's what they wrote. Williams is coming off an impactful 2024 campaign in which his presence on the Eagles' defensive line was a catalyst for their Super Bowl run. His 91.7 PFF pass rush grade last season ranked first among interior defenders. Great. Fantastic pass rusher from the interior. You want that. You need that. Patriots have a couple of guys that bring that. Talking about Williams and Barmore. But let's get into some of the obstacles. Let's get into some of the things that might get in the way of Williams being better than the 14th best interior defensive lineman. That might keep Williams from being a top 5 guy at the position this upcoming season. I want to begin with snaps. Exciting, I know, but check it out. Snap counts, snap percentages. Last year, Milton Williams played only 48% of the snaps for the Eagles. 48%. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to look at the other top interior defensive linemen, according to Pro Football Focus. And I wanted to see the percentage of snaps that those guys play so we have an idea of what it looks like to be a top interior defensive lineman and how impactful those guys are when it comes to snap-to-snap defense. Chris Jones was the top-ranked IDL for Pro Football Focus. Makes sense. Chris Jones played 71.3% of Kansas City snaps. Dexter Lawrence was number 2. Now, he missed games. He ended up playing 550 snaps. Cam Hayward was number 3. He played in over 71% of the Steelers' snaps last year. Quinnen Williams of the Jets played in 63% of the Jets' snaps last season. And Jalen Carter, teammates with Milton Williams, so it wasn't just a Philadelphia Eagles approach. Jalen Carter played 79.37% of the snaps for the Eagles last year. So when you look at what top-notch IDLs play when it comes to snap count, we're talking just about 71%, if not higher. Chris Jones, 71%. Hayward, 71%. Jalen Carter, 79%. Now, Quinnen Williams, a little bit below that at 63%. And I'm not sitting here telling you that Milton Williams is incapable of playing more snaps. The Eagles were loaded on the defensive line, and Milton Williams will unequivocally play more snaps in 2025 for the Patriots just based on the contract he signed with the Patriots. He's the most expensive luxury item in that locker room. He's going to play more than 48% of the snaps. Don't get it twisted. But if he plays more snaps, can he stay healthy? That's one of the questions we have to ask. When he goes from 48% of the snaps to, let's say, 70% of the snaps, if we're going to put him around in the Chris Jones area, if he's going to go from 48% to 70%, that's a big bump. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a professor of mathematics, but the last time I checked, I believe that is 22%. If he's going to boost his playing time by 22%, we have to ask the question if he's going to be capable of staying healthy while playing the same style of football that he likes to play. Will this backfire when we talk about his durability? Can he stay on the field? Can he stay healthy enough to play week in and week out? Because he is the prize. He is the big item. He is the guy that the Patriots are going to depend on to do a lot of damage on that defensive line, to go along with Barmore and to go along with Keon White, Harold Landry. But we're talking about the heart. Milton Williams, you pay him that money because you want him to be the heart of this defensive line. You want him to be the epicenter of your front seven. He's got to be out there every single week. He's got to be healthy every single week. He's not the biggest guy. Now, he's big when you look at me because I'm not a big dude. But Milton Williams, he's 6'3", 290. So he's under 300 pounds. And we know that Mike Vrabel, Terrell Williams, they like defensive linemen that are on the smaller side. I don't want to call them small, but on the smaller side compared to some other players that play that same position. So 6'3", 290, if you're going from 48% to 70%, you've got to make sure you can get through that without any damage, any significant damage. And we're talking about a defense that's going to be aggressive. Think about Terrell Williams, what he likes to say. He likes his guys playing violent. This is going to be a physical, aggressive, violent football team. And you got to play 22% more snaps if you want to get to 70. Can you do that, stay healthy? Can you do that and be the same guy? One last obstacle. Can Milton Williams prove that he can play at least decent football against the run? Because last year, he was terrible against the run. In 2024, Milton Williams' PFF run grade was 43.1. If you're wondering where he stacked up against other interior defensive linemen, it wasn't good. Milton Williams finished 167th out of 219 interior defensive linemen. When we talk about Milton Williams, we're not talking about a Williams that is a run stopper. Far from it. That grade was atrocious last year. And if you think it was a one-year thing, it wasn't. Go back to 2023. This is kind of crazy. I triple-checked it just to make sure I had this right. But Williams' run grade last year was 43.1. His run grade in 2023, what do you think it was? Amazingly enough, 43.1. The same exact run grade. My cousin Vinny, dating myself, identical. That's what you got. Milton Williams in the last 2 years has been one of the worst run-defending interior defensive linemen in the league. If you look at the other top 5 interior defensive linemen, according to PFF, that list we went through earlier, 2 of those top 5 guys have top 5 run grades, Dexter Lawrence and Cam Hayward. The other 3 out of the top 5 IDLs, we're talking Chris Jones, Jalen Carter, Quinnen Williams. Jones was 38th. Jalen Carter was 68th. Quinnen Williams was 81st. So not necessarily great, those last 2 guys, but still eons better than Milton Williams. He's got to step up. If he wants to be truly one of the best defensive linemen in football on the inside, he's got to be more than a pass rusher. Maybe others will help. Barmore, White, maybe they'll help. But those are 3 things I just went through that Milton Williams has to make sure he accomplishes to be as good as the Patriots hope that he will be as he's getting paid as much money as he's getting paid. The 2025 defense, speaking of the D, seems to have lots of answers, but it's not without its questions. That's coming up next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I have pretty high expectations for the defense this year. I think this defense has a legitimate shot at being a top 10 unit. Honestly do. But it doesn't mean this defense is flawless. It doesn't mean this defense is without a weakness or two, maybe even more. But let's look at one specific weakness or possible weakness on this defense, and then I'll tell you if I think it's a big deal or not. Greg Bedard, my buddy at BSJ, recently wrote about weak side linebacker. That Christian Elliss got a lot of snaps next to Robert Spillane in the offseason is not a great thing. Elliss has potential and is a good athlete, but he's still really raw at linebacker and is more of a special teams player. Well, if Elliss is more of a special teams player, the contract of 2 years, $13+ million deal, that's an abomination by the front office in Mike Vrabel if this guy's going to play special teams while making $6.5 million a year. That to me would be a massive overpay, especially considering the rest of this roster and where you were, and spending money like that on a special teams guy, no bueno. But I've got to tell you, I appreciate Bedard, and I'm not necessarily telling you that Bedard's evaluation of the player is wrong. But I'm not overly concerned. There is no defense in the NFL, at least I don't think there is, that has an answer everywhere. I don't think there's a defense in the league where you look 1 through 11 and you say to yourself, no, we good. We more than good. We got an answer everywhere. We feel great about every single solitary position on the field. We got Pro Bowlers everywhere. We got Pro Bowlers just coming out the woodwork on that side of the football. You're going to have a position that might not be as strong as others, is the point. And when I look at weak side linebacker, every single position is important. They should all feel good about themselves and understand that they make an impact. But weak side linebacker, I feel like I can live with a weak side linebacker that might be slightly below average, if that's what Christian Elliss is. I think you can survive that. You should be able to survive it, especially if you have the defensive line and cornerbacks that this defense has for this upcoming season. Barmore, Williams, Landry, White, Gonzalez, Davis, Jones, Duggar, Peppers, maybe Woodson. When you have that going on, I think the level of concern about the weak side linebacker maybe not being great or very good, I think it lessens the blow. It lessens the impact of not having somebody who might be spectacular day one. Because I can look around the rest of the defense and say, you know what? There's going to be 6-7 guys out there that I feel are very good football players, if not more than that. And I didn't even count Spillane. But just looking at defensive line and cornerback, man, I think you got a ton of talent there. Barmore and Williams could be 2 of the top 10 or 15 interior defensive linemen in the league this season. Keon White, I think, has an opportunity to flourish with this coaching staff. Gonzo's a second-team All-Pro already, only 20 games into his career. Carlton Davis, one of the best number 2 cornerbacks in football. I can live with maybe a little bit of a weakness at weak side linebacker. Here's something else I would say. I have trust in this staff. I have trust in Williams. I have trust in Vrabel. I have trust in Kerr. I have trust in Smith. I have trust in this defensive staff that they're going to do a great job. They have experience. They have history together, that cohesion as a staff. And I feel like this staff, and I would also say the offensive staff. I just feel like the Patriots coaching staff overall is filled with coaches that are going to be able to accentuate the strengths of their players. Accentuate the strengths, hide the weaknesses. I think they can take a guy like Christian Elliss, and they can't make an average player a spectacular player. Let's not go crazy here. But I do think they can take somebody like Christian Elliss and develop him enough to make him an average weak side linebacker, to work on the mistakes, to correct those mistakes. So those weaknesses, some of them can just go away. You know what he does well. You put him in positions to succeed. You don't put him in positions to fail. Throughout last season, we saw, especially on the defensive side, how many times did we see players put in a position to fail? That's the antithesis of what your coaching staff should be doing. And I think the Patriots have a coaching staff now that is uniquely qualified to get the most out of the players on the field. And so when I see somebody like Christian Elliss, I believe that this defensive staff is going to do right by him. And I believe, as Bedard said, he's got raw potential. I believe that this defensive staff is going to get the most out of that raw potential. And I believe that this coaching staff is going to make Elliss at least average much sooner than later. I have trust in this staff. And you could argue, and I would argue, you take that raw potential, and the only way that we're going to see if Christian Elliss can actually translate that potential, fulfill it on the field, is by giving him some opportunities. If he's out there running around playing special teams, he's not getting reps at linebacker. If you feel like he's got potential, then you get him out there. This is not a guy who's a rookie. This is a guy who's been in the league. He's played for multiple teams. And so if you believe that he has that ability, he's 26 years old, just about to hit his prime for an NFL player, if not already in his prime. You put him out there, you see what he can do. I'm not going to sit there and hold back a player. Maybe, just maybe, by the time we get to training camp, by the second week of camp, maybe Christian Elliss already looks like he can play the position at a higher level than anybody would have thought. And if he doesn't, I think you have options. You've got the hybrid safety role with Duggar and Peppers that you can mess around with. You've got Monty Rice, who was a top 100 pick back in 2021. When, of course, both Ryan Cowden and Vrabel were in Tennessee along with Terrell Williams. So they obviously like what Monty Rice brought to the table when they were drafting that year to make him a top 100 pick. You got to believe that. And at weak side linebacker, I don't think it's outrageous to believe that maybe somebody becomes available. At that position, maybe it's somebody who becomes a free agent, gets released, right? Gets cut. Maybe it's somebody who ends up available via trade. Maybe it's somebody who's about to maybe fall into the practice squad purgatory. And the Patriots say, let's pluck that guy from that team. So I'm not overly concerned about the weak side linebacker having potential, maybe not being quite ready to be the guy in the middle of June. I trust the people around him, and I'd rather have somebody who has potential that can grow into that potential and develop than somebody who is just who he is, has a high floor, low ceiling, and might be average at best. And I think we've had a lot of that in different spots on this football team the past couple of years. So not overly concerned. All right, that wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Reach out to me on Twitter, will you? At Nick C Radio. Don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. We appreciate every single one of you. And thank you for making Locked On Patriots your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. Krabs and Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great weekend. Stay cool, and we'll see you on Monday.